We have to change the way we view ourselves, because if we can't see ourselves in a brighter light, then there's no way that we can make things right. And here's why. What's good, everybody? It's Vaughn, and you know, this is where you get that knowledge that you don't get in college. So go ahead and scroll into the description, click the link next to Webull, and collect your 12 free stocks. Today, we're going to talk about group economics because I'm seeing the disparity with clarity, and it's preventing us from living a life filled with prosperity. Group economics refers to a collective of people who pooled their finances together to reach a collective goal that couldn't have been accomplished otherwise. Before I go any further, I want you to go into the comments below and share with me one way that we can implement group economics into our lives as a community. In the media, it's very common that you'll see African Americans complaining about white supremacy and racism, but they fail to realize that they're prejudiced against their own kind. From my experience of living in America, I've received more hate from people that look like me than I have from those of other ethnicities. Not saying that racism doesn't exist, because the truth is that it's a product of our imagination, and it's a main reason that most African Americans are still living on a plantation today. The media has projected a specific image of African American people so that they can fulfill a certain agenda. It seems as though African Americans fail to realize that they have been brainwashed into believing that they are something that they're not. There's a reason why they made our history a mystery and just fed us lies in disguise. Which is why many of us look down on one another and would rather build with another race instead of their own kind. What I find to be very interesting is that now that I'm in Jamaica, I'm witnessing something very similar happening, but instead of white people, it's the Chinese. They've sent their people here to set up shop, and many of them don't even speak English. When my mom was here the other day, I took her to the new shopping mall that the Chinese just built because it just opened, and she wanted a sewing needle. So when we went in the store, she asked Mr. Chin if they sell any sewing needles. And then the cashier came over and said that he doesn't understand what you're saying. If you want to communicate with him, you're going to have to use Google Translate. So she went on to assist my mother, and I was shocked. So I just went ahead and strolled around the store to see what else they had. And it didn't take me long to realize that pretty much everything in the store was fake. They had fake Crocs, fake socks, and fake rocks. Just fake everything. At that point, I was questioning if the Chinese man was a knockoff. Then I went back to go check on my mom, and she ended up getting a needle and some string and some hair stuff because she thought she was getting a deal because it was much cheaper. But she didn't hesitate to point out that everything in the store was fake, including the cologne. So I went ahead and took a look myself, and I noticed they had a Gucci cologne that was called Coochie. I guess that Gucci couldn't see that the G was missing. I found this very interesting because here we have another group of people that's working together as a collective so that they can build with one another and benefit from the fruits of another nation's labor. But anyways, I remember when I took a trip to Ireland to visit my high school teammate, and we're in a bar, and this Irish guy came up to me and we were talking. He was drunk. But in the conversation, I ended up telling him that I'm from America. And when I told him that, he was like, he hates Americans because his mother died and America wouldn't allow him to come here so that he could go to the funeral. And then I ended up telling him that I'm also Jamaican. And then when I told him that, his anger instantly disappeared and he got so excited. And he was telling me how he loves the Jamaican culture, and he even has a tattoo of Bob Marley on his body. This situation, along with some of the other experiences that I've had on other trips, made me realize that Jamaicans are some very ambitious, resilient, charismatic, and talented people that are loved all around the world. In fact, the only people that don't like us is us, and that needs to change. We need to treat one another the same way we treat our guests, and we'll be able to create a much more peaceful and prosperous ecosystem. This short clip that I'm about to share with you is a perfect example of how African Americans are treated in America and why we need to practice group economics.
Tell you something. Now, we're not going back to that restaurant, are we? No. Brother Hill, what do you see?
I see a grocery store.
What do you see? I see a whole mess of Negro dollars going into white pockets. Now look at that. They'll take our money, but they despise us so much, they will not touch our hands in the exchange. Money is power, Brother Hill.
You ain't lying.
Then why are we turning over our power to people who despise us?
But Dr. Johns, the members of our congregation are professional people. They're not business-oriented.
Yeah, and that's our biggest mistake. Right now, we are only consumers. If we're only consumers, we're parasites.
And that's right. We need to be more selective as a collective and delegate our resources in a manner that will create an abundance of opportunities for each generation that comes after us. If we constantly give our power to other communities, then they will continue to have control over us. So you might be asking, what's the solution? Well, let's listen to Dr. Claude Anderson because he has laid out a well thought out strategy of how we can regain our control.
There's a direct relationship between having the businesses and being in prison. Go find see how many Asians you can find in American prisons. You ain't gonna be in there. But 51% of your prison will be black because blacks don't have any businesses and industries. There's a direct link. Blacks won't practice group economics. Black won't practice group politics. If you don't practice, you're setting yourself up. I told that 5-story building, you're setting yourself to get wiped out. Understand the nature of race, which is economics. If you build the first floor, it's economic. Build your businesses and your industries. Control business and industry, and put that pools in your money, and hold that money, and practice group economics with it. Arab and Asian money bounces 12 to 13 times what it leaves. Jewish money bounces 18 times. Black folk got to learn how to practice group economics. Black Americans spend every penny they get outside their own community. Then you take the money and the wealth that you get from that first floor and go to the second floor. The second floor is politics. You then take that money on the first floor and you control your politics. Black folk must quit allowing people to tell them to go out and vote. Vote for what? Nobody's gonna do anything for black folk in politics. Politics is controlled by money, major corporations who got the money. That's what controls politics. If you have no money, you have no say-so, you have no benefits coming. So you take your money and you control, and you take your money from the first floor, you buy every politician on the second floor. And then the politician you can't buy, you rent or lease them to get what you need. Then once you get the second floor under control with your politician, with your money, then you go to the third floor. The third floor then is the police department and the court system.
Cool, and if you abuse it, you lose it. So we have to be resourceful with our resources and pull them together for the betterment of our society. If we depend on other entities to do so, then we are giving away our power, which allows those entities to dictate our future. There's been so many occasions where I hear older people complaining about what the government isn't doing. And based on what Dr. Anderson said, you can clearly see that that's a backwards way of thinking. Because the government works for us. And if we're able to create value through business, then we'll be able to dictate what the government is doing. So the problem begins and ends with us as the individual. Once we realize this and we begin to pull our resources together for the betterment of our society, then we will be in control of our destiny. And it's about that time. So if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and click the bell so that you're notified every time I make a new post. Build a foundation so that you're no longer stuck on a plantation.